It was a cool autumn evening when Emma and her four closest friends, Jake, Mia, Lucas, and Sarah, decided to escape the chaos of city life and go camping in the infamous Whispering Woods. Tales of strange disappearances and eerie sounds had surrounded the forest for decades, but the group, fueled by curiosity and adventure, were determined to uncover its secrets. As they drove deeper into the countryside, the sunlight faded, painting the sky with hues of orange and purple. The forest loomed ahead, dense and shadowy, with towering trees that seemed to touch the clouds. They set up their campsite in a small clearing, with the soft rustling of leaves and the distant hoot of an owl their only company. As night fell, they gathered around the crackling campfire, sharing stories and laughter. But soon, a soft whisper drifted through the trees, so faint it was almost mist. At first, they thought it was the wind. But the whisper grew louder, sounding like distant voices calling their names. Emma's heart pounded. "Did you hear that?" she whispered, looking around nervously. Jake chuckled, "It's just the forest playing tricks on us. Don't let your imagination run wild." Mia shivered, "I don't know, it sounded too clear to be just wind." Lucas pulled his jacket tighter, "Let's just stay close and keep the fire going. Whatever it is, we're together." As the night deepened, the whispers continued, sometimes seeming to come from all directions, other times from just beyond the tree line. Their laughter faded, replaced by uneasy silence. Little did they know, the Whispering Woods were alive, watching, and waiting for something, or someone. The whispers that night weren't the only strange things Emma and her friends would encounter. After their uneasy night by the campfire, the next morning dawned cold and foggy. The forest looked less inviting in the pale light, with thick mist curling between the ancient trees. Emma woke first, her mind restless and heavy with the memories of the previous night. She glanced over at her friends, all still asleep, except Jake, who was sitting up, staring blankly into the fog. "Did you hear those whispers too?" she asked quietly. Jake nodded but didn't say much. The group decided to explore the forest during the day, hoping to find the source of the strange sounds and perhaps prove to themselves there was nothing to fear. As they walked deeper, the woods seemed to close in around them. The branches twisted into strange shapes, shadows danced in the corners of their eyes, and the silence was almost suffocating. Then suddenly, Sarah stopped. "Did you see that?" she whispered, pointing at a figure between the trees, a dark, flickering shadow that disappeared as soon as they looked directly at it. Mia shivered, "I don't think we're alone here." Lucas tried to keep the mood light, but even he felt the cold prickles on his skin. They hurried back to camp, but the sense of being watched never left. Emma's thoughts raced, was the forest really haunted, or was their fear conjuring ghosts of the past? That night, the whispers returned, louder, more urgent, almost pleading. Emma lay awake, her eyes fixed on the darkness, wondering what the Whispering Woods wanted from them. The morning sun filtered weakly through the dense canopy as the group packed up their camp, their nerves frayed from the previous night's eerie experience. Emma insisted they explore one last area before heading back, a narrow, winding trail that locals called the Lost Path. Legend said that anyone who wandered down this path without respect would vanish, swallowed by the forest itself. But curiosity pushed them forward. The trail was overgrown, and with every step, the trees seemed to lean closer, their branches forming unnatural shapes, like twisted hands reaching out. The ground was soft beneath their feet, muffling their steps. The deeper they went, the thicker the fog became, swallowing the daylight and chilling their bones. Suddenly, Jake stopped dead in his tracks. "Guys, I think we're going in circles." Sarah pulled out her phone, but the GPS flickered and died. "No signal," she whispered, panic rising in her voice. Lucas tried to stay calm. "Let's just keep moving forward. The trail has to lead somewhere." But the forest seemed to reject their progress. Strange noises echoed, footsteps that weren't theirs, whispers that now felt like warnings. Then, from the mist, a cold hand brushed against Emma's arm. She gasped and turned, but no one was there. Her heart pounding, Emma realized that the stories weren't just tales. The Whispering Woods had a mind of their own, and it was trapping them. As shadows lengthened and the sun dipped below the horizon, the lost path twisted into darkness, and the friends knew the forest might never let them go. Night fell swiftly, and the forest seemed to grow alive with unseen eyes watching their every move. The group huddled together, trying to keep their courage steady, but the chilling silence pressed in on them like a heavy fog. Emma's thoughts raced as she remembered the old tales about this place, that the woods were once a sacred ground where ancient tribes lived and disappeared mysteriously. Their spirits, it was said, still roamed the forest, trapped between worlds. Suddenly, faint glowing lights appeared ahead, flickering like will-o'-the-wisps. Mesmerized, the friends followed the lights deeper into the woods, hoping for a way out. But the lights led them into a clearing, and there, among the trees, stood a circle of weathered stones covered in ancient symbols. An eerie hush fell. Emma felt a cold breeze brush past, carrying with it whispers in an ancient language she couldn't understand. Her skin prickled with a mix of fear and fascination. Jake reached out to touch one of the stones, but before he could, a deep, resonant voice echoed through the clearing. "Leave this place." The friends froze. No one knew where the voice came from, but it was clear they were trespassing on sacred ground. The whispers grew louder, swirling around them like a storm of forgotten souls. Panicked, the group tried to retrace their steps, but the forest had changed. The trees shifted, blocking their path, and the glowing lights now circled them, growing brighter and more intense. Emma realized with growing horror that the spirits weren't just warnings, they were traps, ensnaring anyone who dared enter their realm. As the night deepened, the friends were caught in a web of echoes, echoes of the forgotten, whose stories begged to be heard but came with a terrible price. The cold night air grew heavier, thick with unseen menace as the group stumbled through the ever-changing forest. The glowing lights had vanished, but the oppressive feeling remained, as if the very shadows around them were alive. Emma could feel her heartbeat pounding, each thump echoing in her ears like a drumbeat of warning. She glanced around nervously, every tree seemed to twist unnaturally, their bark groaning like tortured souls. Suddenly, a rustling noise came from the underbrush. Lucas raised his flashlight, its beam cutting through the darkness, and their eyes gleamed back at them. Small, inhuman, yet unmistakably watching. Jake whispered, What is that?" Before they could react, a low growl rumbled through the woods. From the shadows emerged tall, gaunt figures, their bodies shifting and flickering like smoke, faces obscured but eyes glowing with cold fire. The friends froze in terror. These were the shadows the legend spoke of, the restless spirits cursed to wander, seeking to snatch unwary souls to join their eternal prison. Emma took a deep breath, forcing herself to stay calm. "We need to stick together," she urged. "Run when I say run." The figures closed in, whispering ancient curses that chilled their bones. Time slowed as the friends scrambled through the twisted forest, branches clawing at their skin, roots threatening to trip them. Behind them, the shadows whispered and howled, their voices like the rattling of chains and the screams of the lost. Emma's mind raced, how could they escape this nightmare? The forest was alive, a maze designed to trap them forever. Suddenly, through the darkness, a faint glimmer of light appeared, a small, weathered cabin nestled between two massive oaks. It was their only hope. With the shadows closing in, the friends sprinted toward the cabin, praying it held the answers they desperately needed to survive the Whispering Woods. As they burst through the underbrush, the cabin's worn wooden door stood ajar, creaking softly in the cold wind. The group didn't hesitate, they rushed inside, slamming the door shut behind them. The forest's eerie howls faded slightly but were still audible through the thin walls. Inside, the cabin was dark, filled with dust and the scent of old wood. Faded portraits hung crookedly on the walls, their eyes seeming to follow every movement. Emma's flashlight flickered across a worn journal lying open on a rickety table. She picked it up, the pages yellowed with age, and began to read aloud. The Whispering Woods have claimed many souls over centuries. Those who enter often vanish, their spirits trapped forever. But there is a way to escape, a secret hidden within the heart of the forest, the old tree. Legend says it holds the power to break the curse, but none who have sought it have returned. The friends exchanged anxious glances. Jake ran his hand through his hair. So, this is what we're dealing with, a curse, an ancient forest that traps souls. Emma nodded grimly. We have to find that old tree. Suddenly, a thud echoed outside, making them jump. Lucas peeked through a cracked window. The shadows had surrounded the cabin, their glowing eyes pressed against the glass, waiting. Time was running out. Emma closed the journal and declared, "We rest now. At dawn, we find the old tree." As they huddled together, the cabin seemed to breathe, creaking, whispering, alive with a dark history. Outside, the shadows waited patiently, hungry for their next prey. The night was long, filled with restless dreams and distant echoes of forgotten souls calling out for release. The first light of dawn filtered weakly through the grimy windows of the cabin, casting long shadows that seemed to stretch and move. The friends gathered their strength, their faces pale but determined. The secret of the old tree weighed heavily on their minds. Emma carefully folded the journal, its fragile pages containing their only hope. "We can't waste any time," she said firmly. "If the legends are true, the old tree is deep in the heart of the forest, the darkest part." Lucas grabbed his backpack, filled with supplies he had scavenged. "We'll need everything, food, water, flashlights, maybe even something to defend ourselves." Jake nodded. "And we have to watch each other's backs. Those shadows won't give up easily." As they stepped outside, the forest greeted them with an unnatural silence. No birds sang, no leaves rustled, only the distant, haunting whispers that seemed to come from the very soil beneath their feet. They moved cautiously, following the faint map sketched in the journal, their path twisting deeper into the forest's heart. The air grew colder, the trees older and gnarled, their twisted branches forming eerie shapes against the pale sky. Suddenly, a chill ran down Emma's spine. From the corner of her eye, she saw a shadow flicker, quick, fleeting, almost a trick of the light. But Jake stopped abruptly. "Did you see that?" he whispered. Before anyone could answer, the forest around them seemed to close in, branches reaching like fingers. A low growl echoed from the darkness. The shadows had found them again. Emma swallowed hard, gripping the journal tightly. "Keep moving. Don't stop." Their journey had truly begun. Every step forward took them closer to the old tree, but also deeper into danger. The trees loomed over them like ancient sentinels, their twisted limbs blotting out the sun. Every step deeper into the forest made the air heavier, thick with an unnatural silence that pressed on their chests like a weight. Emma's heart pounded as the group treaded carefully, senses sharpened. The whispers were louder now, swirling around them like a cold mist. Suddenly, without warning, the ground beneath Lucas gave way. He fell through a hidden trapdoor into darkness. "Lucas!" Jake shouted, but before they could react, ropes tangled around their legs, pulling them down one by one. The shadows had sprung their trap. Their eerie, glowing eyes surrounded the group, their whispers turning to chilling laughter. The friends struggled, but the forest itself seemed alive, binding them tighter. In the gloom, Emma's flashlight flickered on a small carving on the trapdoor, a twisted symbol, like a claw scratching into wood. The journal's warnings echoed in her mind. This was no ordinary forest. Summoning all her courage, Emma reached into her bag and pulled out a small vial of salt, a relic the priest had given her before their journey. Sprinkling it around them, the shadows hissed and recoiled. "We need to break free, now," Emma urged. With combined strength, they struggled against the ropes, the salt acting like a shield. Slowly, the bindings loosened. Once free, they didn't hesitate, sprinting through the thicket, branches slapping their faces, breath ragged but spirits fierce. The shadows howled behind them, unable to cross the salt barrier. But Emma knew this was only a temporary victory. The forest was far from done with them. Hearts still pounding from their narrow escape, the friends pressed onward, following the journal's faint map to the old tree. The forest thickened around them, the canopy blotting out the sky and leaving them in twilight. Suddenly, Emma noticed a peculiar pattern on the ground, strange symbols etched into the dirt and roots, glowing faintly with an eerie blue light. "Look at this," she whispered, kneeling down. Lucas wiped sweat from his brow. "These markings, they look like warnings." Jake frowned. "Or maybe clues." As they traced the symbols, the earth beneath them trembled softly. A low hum vibrated through the air, growing louder and resonating deep within their bones. Then, before their eyes, the roots of the old tree began to shift, slowly revealing a hidden entrance beneath its massive trunk, a dark hollow descending into the earth. "This must be it," Emma said, her voice barely audible. "The heart of the forest's secret." With flashlights in hand, the group descended into the cavernous hollow. Inside, ancient carvings lined the walls, telling stories of a forgotten pact between humans and forest spirits, a pact broken long ago, unleashing the curse that haunted the woods. As they ventured deeper, whispers turned to voices, guiding them toward a glowing orb pulsing with light at the cavern center. The journal had mentioned this, the source of the forest's power and the key to breaking the curse. But guarding the orb was a shadowy figure, its eyes burning like coals. The final challenge awaited. The shadowy figure stood motionless, its presence thick and heavy in the air. As Emma and her friends approached, the guardian's eyes blazed brighter, its voice echoing like thunder. "Who dares enter the heart of the forest?" Emma stepped forward, voice steady despite her fear. "We seek to end the curse and bring peace back to these woods." The guardian's form shifted, revealing a terrifying visage, a creature woven from bark, shadow, and ancient magic. "To break the pact, you must prove your worth. Face your deepest fears, or be trapped forever." Suddenly, the cavern around them warped. Each friend was pulled into their own nightmare, visions twisted by their worst fears and regrets. Emma found herself alone in a storm, hearing her mother's voice calling for help from a collapsing house. Lucas faced visions of losing his brother, trapped beneath rubble. Jake confronted memories of failure and loss. But Emma remembered the journal's advice: strength comes from unity. She called out to her friends, urging them to hold on to hope and fight through the illusions. Together, they shattered the visions with sheer willpower. The guardian's form softened, respect glowing in its eyes. "You have proven yourselves. The curse is lifted." The glowing orb pulsed once, then shattered, releasing a wave of light that washed over the forest, healing its wounds. Emma and her friends emerged from the cavern as dawn broke, the forest alive with new energy, whispers now gentle and welcoming. As the first rays of sunlight filtered through the leaves, the friends stood silently, feeling the forest breathe anew. The heavy darkness that once weighed upon the trees was lifted, replaced by a warm, vibrant glow. Birds sang melodies never heard before, and even the air seemed lighter, as if the forest itself was healing from a long nightmare. Emma looked around, her heart swelling with hope. "We did it. The curse is gone." Lucas smiled, but his eyes held a hint of caution. "It feels too peaceful, almost like the calm before another storm." Jake nodded in agreement. "We still don't know who or what broke the pact so long ago." Suddenly, from the shadows of the forest's edge, a figure emerged, an old woman with eyes as bright as the morning sun and a knowing smile. "I've been waiting for you," she said softly. "You've broken the curse, but the forest's story is far from over." She revealed herself as the guardian's true form. The spirit of the woods, bound by the ancient pact. Long ago, a darkness was sealed beneath this forest. You have freed its grip, but you must now protect the balance. Emma felt a surge of responsibility settle over her. This was not just a victory, it was a beginning. The spirit handed her a pendant, glowing softly. This will guide you. Protect the forest, and protect the world beyond. The friends looked at each other, understanding the journey ahead was bigger than any curse, it was a lifelong mission. As the sun climbed higher, Emma clutched the glowing pendant, feeling warmth spread through her fingers. The spirit of the woods had vanished, leaving behind a silence filled with anticipation. Lucas peered at the pendant curiously. What exactly can it do? Emma hesitated, then pressed the pendant to her chest. Suddenly, a pulse of light shot out, revealing hidden paths in the forest that shimmered faintly with ethereal energy. Jake gasped. It's showing us things, secrets hidden from the ordinary eye. Together, they followed the glowing trails deeper into the woods, discovering ancient symbols carved into trees and strange runes on stones. The forest was alive with stories long forgotten. Emma's heart pounded as the pendant guided her toward a hidden clearing. At its center stood an enormous oak tree, its bark glowing faintly with an inner light. Suddenly, the ground trembled, and a low growl echoed through the clearing. From the shadows emerged a colossal creature. A beast forged from roots, vines, and earth, eyes glowing with the same light as the pendant. It's the forest guardian, whispered Lucas, awe and fear mixing in his voice. The beast's gaze locked onto Emma. The pendant pulsed stronger, connecting their souls in a silent bond. Emma realized this was not an enemy, but a protector awakened by their courage. The forest guardian bowed its massive head, granting them passage deeper into the heart of the forest where more secrets awaited. The giant forest guardian stepped aside, revealing the ancient oak's bark glowing with swirling runes. Emma, Lucas, and Jake approached cautiously, the pendant's light intensifying with each step. Emma reached out and placed her hand on the bark. Suddenly, the runes shimmered and a doorway formed, a portal to a hidden chamber within the tree. Stepping through, the trio found themselves in a vast, hollowed space filled with floating lights and ancient relics. The air was thick with magic, humming softly as if alive. In the center, a crystal orb floated above a pedestal, pulsating with a deep, resonant energy. Emma felt drawn to it, her pendant glowing brighter. Touching the orb, images flooded her mind, the history of the forest, the ancient pact made to protect it, and the dark force imprisoned beneath its roots. She saw the guardian's origin, born from the earth's heart to shield the balance between nature and mankind. But the orb also revealed a prophecy. A shadow was rising again, stronger and more cunning. Lucas stepped forward, eyes wide. So the curse wasn't the only threat. There's something else coming. Jake clenched his fists. Then we have to prepare. The forest chose us for a reason. Emma nodded, determination burning in her eyes. We need to uncover all the secrets here and find a way to stop what's coming. As they exited the chamber, the ancient oak sealed the portal behind them, its glowing runes fading but leaving a sense of urgency hanging in the air. That night, strange whispers echoed through the forest, soft voices carried by the wind, promising chaos and despair. The pendant's glow dimmed, reacting to the growing darkness. In the distance, a dark figure moved silently, cloaked in shadows, eyes glowing faintly like embers. The shadow was awakening. Emma lay in bed, clutching the pendant, her dreams invaded by haunting images of destruction and sorrow. The shadow whispered threats only she could hear. Lucas and Jake met quietly in the village square, planning their next move. We need allies, Lucas said firmly. If the forest's fate depends on us, we can't do it alone. Jake nodded. The village elders might have knowledge we need. They've kept the old legends alive for centuries. Emma decided to visit the eldest of the village, Grandma Willow, a wise woman with stories etched in every wrinkle, eyes sharp as a hawk's. Sitting by the fire, Grandma Willow listened intently to Emma's tale and examined the pendant carefully. This is no ordinary charm, child. It's a beacon, and a warning. She told them of an ancient battle between light and shadow, and how the shadow was sealed away once before, only to return when the balance was disturbed. The shadow feeds on fear and doubt, she warned. You must stay strong and united, or the darkness will consume us all. Outside, the wind howled, and the forest seemed to hold its breath, the calm before the storm. The morning mist still clung to the trees as Emma, Lucas, and Jake set out to find the guardians of the forest, ancient beings bound by oath to protect the land from darkness. Their first destination was the Crystal Lake, where it was said the water guardian dwelled, a being of shimmering scales and eyes like liquid silver. As they approached the lake's edge, the water rippled unnaturally, and a figure emerged, tall and graceful, radiating calm power. The water guardian's voice echoed like a gentle stream, "Why do you seek me, children of the forest?" Emma stepped forward, holding up the glowing pendant. "The shadow returns. We need your strength to protect our home." The guardian's gaze softened but carried weight. "The balance has been disturbed. I will stand with you, but you must prove your resolve." Next, they ventured deeper into the forest to the Fire Caverns, home of the Fire Guardian, a fierce warrior wrapped in flames that never burned. The heat was intense, but Jake felt a strange pull guiding him. At the cavern's mouth, a fiery figure awaited, eyes blazing with ancient fury. "You seek to challenge the darkness," the Fire Guardian growled. "I will join your cause, but know this, the battle ahead will test your very souls." The final guardian awaited in the Whispering Meadows, the Earth Guardian, an old, moss-covered giant who moved with the slow, steady power of mountains. Emma bowed respectfully. "Please, we need your help to save the forest and all who live within it." The Earth Guardian's deep voice rumbled like thunder. "I have watched over this land for centuries. The shadow's return threatens all. I will lend you my strength." With the Guardians united, Emma, Lucas, and Jake felt hope flicker in their hearts. But the shadow was already plotting its next move, and the fight for the forest's soul was about to begin. The night was thick with fog as Emma and her companions prepared for the inevitable confrontation. The Guardians stood tall, their powers pulsating through the air like a storm gathering strength. Suddenly, the forest seemed to hold its breath. Then, from the depths of the trees, a chilling wind swept through, carrying with it the faint, sinister laughter of the shadow. Without warning, dark tendrils slithered from the shadows, wrapping around trees and creeping towards the village. The air grew cold, and the sky darkened as if night had fallen prematurely. Emma gripped the pendant tightly, feeling its warmth fighting against the encroaching chill. "We have to stop it here," she whispered, determination shining in her eyes. The Guardians took their positions. The Water Guardian summoned waves of mist that swirled to block the shadow's advance, the Fire Guardian unleashed bursts of flame to burn away the darkness, and the Earth Guardian raised roots and rocks to form a barrier. But the shadow was cunning. It morphed and shifted, slipping through cracks and gaps, whispering lies and fears into the minds of the defenders. Lucas faltered, visions of despair clouding his thoughts. Jake shook off the darkness and rallied the team, "Stay strong. The shadow feeds on our fear." Emma closed her eyes and focused on the pendant's light. A brilliant glow erupted, pushing back the tendrils and illuminating the forest in a warm, golden hue. The shadow hissed in frustration and retreated deeper into the woods, but its voice promised a return, darker and more dangerous than before. The battle was far from over, but the first strike belonged to the protectors of the forest. After the fierce battle, the forest seemed quieter, almost as if it was holding its breath. Emma, Lucas, and Jake knew that to truly defeat the shadow, they had to uncover its origin. Guided by the Water Guardian's shimmering light, they ventured to the heart of the forest, the ancient grove, a place whispered about in legends but rarely seen by mortal eyes. Towering trees with bark like aged leather surrounded them. The air was thick with magic, and faint whispers echoed among the leaves, as if the forest itself was speaking. In the center stood a massive tree, its trunk scarred and blackened, the source of the shadow's power. Emma approached cautiously, feeling an overwhelming presence radiating from the tree. Suddenly, the ground trembled, and a deep voice resonated, "You seek answers, but some truths are better left buried." From the shadows emerged an ethereal figure, the original guardian of the forest, long lost to time but bound to protect the grove's secrets. She revealed that the shadow was once a powerful guardian who had been corrupted by greed and envy, turning into the dark force now threatening everything. The only way to cleanse the shadow was to restore the balance by reuniting the ancient fragments of the forest's heart, scattered across the land and hidden in perilous places. Emma's resolve hardened. "Then we have no time to lose. We must find the fragments and save our home." The guardian smiled faintly. "Your journey is only beginning. The path will be fraught with danger, but you are not alone." With renewed purpose and the blessing of the ancient guardian, Emma and her friend set off, ready to face whatever trials awaited. With the ancient guardian's blessing still fresh in their hearts, Emma, Lucas, and Jake set out from the grove, the weight of their mission pressing on them. Their first destination, the Forgotten Caves, rumored to house the very first fragment of the forest's heart. The path was treacherous, gnarled roots twisted beneath their feet, and eerie sounds echoed from the shadows. As they neared the cave entrance, a chilling wind swept through, carrying whispers of warning. But retreat was not an option. Inside, the darkness swallowed their torchlight, and every step felt heavy with unseen eyes watching. The walls glistened with strange crystals that pulsed faintly, casting eerie reflections. Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath them as an ancient guardian beast awakened, a colossal stone golem, protector of the fragment, formed from the very rock and roots of the cave. Emma's heart pounded. "We must prove our worth," she said. The battle was not only of strength but of wit and courage. Using the water guardian's power, Lucas created a mist that confused the golem's senses. Jake, swift and agile, dodged the crushing blows while looking for a weakness. Emma focused the pendant's light, discovering runes carved into the cave walls, a puzzle they needed to solve to calm the golem. With tense teamwork, they activated the runes in the right order, and the golem's fury subsided, lowering its massive arms. In the cave's deepest chamber lay a glowing shard, the first fragment, pulsating with pure energy. As Emma reached for it, the cave began to shake violently, the shadow's influence fighting to stop them. With the fragment secured, they raced out just as the cave entrance collapsed behind them. Breathless but victorious, the trio knew this was only the beginning. Many more fragments awaited, each guarded by challenges that would test their resolve. With the first fragment safely in their possession, Emma, Lucas, and Jake pressed onward toward the next destination, the misty marshlands, a place shrouded in thick, swirling fog and whispered legends of spirits lost to time. The marsh welcomed them with an eerie silence, broken only by distant croaks and the soft slosh of water beneath their boots. The dense mist distorted their vision, turning familiar shapes into twisted shadows that seemed to watch and follow them. As they moved deeper, strange voices echoed, faint cries for help mingled with chilling laughter. Emma's pendant glowed softly, guiding their way but unable to fully pierce the enveloping gloom. Suddenly, from the haze emerged shadowy figures, ghostly apparitions bound to the marsh by ancient curses. These restless spirits sought to trap the trio, drawing them into the bog's deadly embrace. Lucas invoked the water guardian's power, sending waves of pure water to disperse the ghosts, but the spirits only multiplied, their voices growing louder, more desperate. Jake, recalling an old tale from the village elder, began chanting an ancient prayer meant to soothe wandering souls. Slowly, the spirits calmed, their forms flickering and fading as they found peace. In the heart of the marsh, hidden beneath a twisted willow, lay the second fragment, glowing faintly beneath the murky waters. Reaching for it, Emma felt a surge of warmth and strength flow through her, as if the fragment carried the very essence of the marsh. But just as they turned to leave, the mist thickened, and from its depths, a monstrous shape arose, the shadow's twisted guardian, born from the fears of those who had perished here. The battle was fierce and desperate. With every strike, the creature dissolved into mist, only to reform stronger and more terrifying. Using the combined powers of their bond and the fragments, Emma unleashed a brilliant light that shattered the creature, dispelling the darkness. Exhausted but unbroken, the friends emerged from the marsh, the second fragment secure. Emma, Lucas, and Jake stood at the edge of the ancient clearing, where the last fragment awaited, the heart of the forest itself, hidden deep within the ruins of an age-old temple, now claimed by shadows and silence. The air was thick with anticipation and an almost sacred calm. As they stepped forward, the pendant around Emma's neck pulsed rhythmically, syncing with the beat of the forest's hidden heart. But the shadow was waiting. From the darkness emerged its true form, a towering figure cloaked in swirling black mist, eyes burning like cold embers. Its voice echoed like thunder, promising destruction and eternal night. The friends stood united, hands clasped, drawing strength from their journey and each other. Emma raised the pendant high, its light blazing like 1,000 suns, pushing back the darkness inch by inch. The shadow lashed out, a tempest of fear and despair, but Lucas summoned the water guardian's tide, while Jake's quick thinking and bravery kept them safe from the crushing blows. Piece by piece, the fragments they had collected glowed, combining their power to form a radiant shield around them. With a final, desperate surge, Emma stepped forward and touched the heart of the forest. A brilliant explosion of light erupted, washing away the shadow's darkness and filling the woods with warmth and life. Birdsong returned, flowers bloomed, and the forest sighed with relief. The curse was broken. Emma, Lucas, and Jake looked at each other, smiles of triumph and gratitude shining in their eyes. Their bond had not only saved the Whispering Woods but had also sealed their friendship forever. As dawn broke, the trio knew their lives were forever changed, the forest's magic alive in their hearts and the knowledge that together, they could face any darkness.